What's up, y'all? I feel like I've always had like an issue with this entire like Diddy thing. Everyone has talked on it. I'm not yet done, and I wanted to kind of try to deep dive into this. Just interview with one of the escorts, and I feel like I wanted to hear this side because, of course, hey, nobody listened to this side of the story. All they see is the abuse, and hey, I get it. Abuse should be punished from any side of things, but they never look at the entire story. And I wanted to deep dive and look exactly into this particular escort worker that was, chastised. Let's go.
They
Yeah, Brian
subpoena,
Steele.
yeah, Brian Steele. They subpoena the book. Tyrone contacts me maybe I want to say the second week of May, saying, "Listen, they subpoenaed your book. They cannot get that book. I'm going to submit a motion to squash." I said, "Well, why can't they get the book? The U.S. Attorney's Office knows that I've said all of this stuff about Cassandra. It's not like it's new stuff. They know I've been telling them for a year." He says, "Dude, that book would destroy her." I said, "Well, if I have to give them the book, I want to give them the book." He says, "All right, let me take care of it." So I find out maybe, I think it was like May 17th, May 15th, that he submitted this motion to squash, where he completely lied to the judge Summarian, and he claimed that my book was actually privileged notes. Now that's a lie because the book is not privileged notes.
All right. So if y'all are just kind of joining in on this, and I only can get like pieces of this particular thing, but Tasha K interviewed this man who is now, one of the male sex workers that Cassie slept with. And he wrote a book, and basically he was trying to put his book out. But of course, the prosecution told him, the book, can't be put out, and that's what he's talking about here. So that's what this is, because they're mentioning that it wouldn't look as great in Cassie's favor for this book to actually come out while the case is happening.
So the judge orders him to turn over the manuscript. I believe I contact him a week after I find out the judge orders him to turn over the manuscript. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, did you turn over that manuscript?" He said, "Hell no. Why would I do that? Are you crazy? No, if I turn over this manuscript, you're going to blow this case apart." I said, "Tyrone, listen, I don't want a problem. Turn over the book. My phone dies." So now when my phone starts back up, I sent him a text message. "Listen, brother, I don't want a problem with a federal judge. I'm going to release this book. Turn over the manuscript." I don't believe he still turned over the manuscript to the defense.
And I remember you reaching out because you said, "Hey, I'm getting ready to write a book and I want to do an interview. Yes, I do plan to testify in favor of Diddy because you were, according to you, the main one that Cassie called for almost 10 years of the relationship." And so,
Another correction. 8 years, because I don't want you to be
8
sued
years.
for anything. 8 years
Okay,
she
gotcha.
called
8
me.
years. 8 years. Okay.
So hold on, so all this thing that they made it seem as though like it was just one-off guys. This guy was like a resident guy there. In other words, it's like having a job. As I was talking to someone today, and I said, this is like you having like an actual job. You know what I mean? Like where it's like a span of a career essentially, because that's a lifetime. 8 years is a long time for you to be saying, okay, for 8 years, that's what you've been doing with Cassie. Like in other words, that was your main job. You get paid to do this, but I guess they're gonna say exactly how much he makes and all that kind of stuff.
And so maybe I got 10 years because they were together 10 years. So I'm just kind of stuck on how long they were together. But I know it took some time for him to warm her up to doing freakoffs and things like that. And so, the judge had ordered too, because we were getting ready to do your interview and help you to promote your book and stuff like that. But then the judge said that you guys couldn't speak to media at all.
Exactly. And so I can't speak to media. You've heard my name mentioned probably a dozen different times in this trial. I'm in the actual freak off videos. Several of the videos, unfortunately, are me covered in baby oil in a room with Cassandra Ventura. Uh, I have no clue why they Daniel Phillip. Daniel Phillip and I were in an orgy with Sean Combs. Okay.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
He went out
Wait
for
a
a
minute.
second.
It's been frozen.
Yeah, you said Daniel Phillip?
Daniel Phillip. I met Daniel Phillip in an orgy at Cassie's apartment in one of the Trump buildings in Midtown Manhattan. I believe it was 2011. That's where I met Daniel Phillip in an orgy where I was called by Cassie to have a sexathon. And basically, the goal of this sexathon was for one of us to last the longest. Whoever lasts the longest was going to become her main boy toy. Tasha K, I see your face. This is the truth. So for 2 days, myself and Daniel Phillip, we participated in this sexathon, Sex and Cassie.
That's crazy. Like, in other words, so just imagine yourself as a guy and all you're doing is just you're just trying to go back to back to back to back. I mean, that's a long time. That's you're probably running on fumes after a period of time, but that's exactly what he's saying that they were engaged in. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like it's a race then. Because for Jamaicans, it's almost like, it's 100 meters. You're involved in this whole gauntlet where you're just competing against another man, where they wanted to see exactly who could last the longest, and the guy that lasts the longest over the two period of times would pretty much win Cassie over. In other words, they win the job, this 8-year job, pretty much. That's what it sounds like.
Daniel Phillip hung in there, but I think it was a Wednesday morning actually. I think the morning of the wrap up of the thing, he finally couldn't participate anymore. Not because something's wrong with him. He had been up 2 days. He's back to back having sex with her. He was tired, so he couldn't perform anymore. But I still could. So I finished her off. I end up winning. Diddy comes out the room after he carries her in the other bedroom. He pays Daniel Phillip. Daniel Phillip leaves. He comes to me. He tells me out his own mouth. He says, "Listen, she said you were the best life." Wow, really? He said, "Yeah." He said, "Yo, she wants you to come back. She just needs some time to rest." I said, "All right." Now I had been there 2 days, Tasha. I needed to go to work. I was in.
She wanted him to come back. That's wild. Wow. So, in other words, so she's pretty much going back to back from one guy to the next, from one guy to the next. This is why I was so weird with this trial, because when they revealed all of this, then I'm like, no, because people started to make this seem as though like it was one of those coercion kind of things where, the typical, hey, the man has taken advantage of the woman. And don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm not saying protect, women out here, but also some women have, well, women and people in general have the wherewithal, and they have their own, what you call now, autonomy as to what they want to do. But when you do that, actually take the repercussion for that, versus like trying to pawn it off on someone else. That's the problem I think I have with the entire thing, is the fact that they're trying to kind of pawn it off to somebody else.
Competition. I don't even think I was escorting anymore at the time, because I only started escorting because I was in prison. I got released. I had a great body. I was good with women. So someone hired me to be an escort. So maybe a year or two into it, I stopped. I got a job. I was an optician. I was trying to get my life together. I didn't have time for that. But Cassie paid me so well. It was kind of like a no-brainer. Beautiful woman, $5,000 every time I got to break her down. What 30 year
Rico said during our interview last week that the pay was 5,000.
5,000. I only got less than 5,000 one time, and that's the time Diddy drugged me. He gave me $1,500 to go home because I was completely drugged out of my face off of something he gave me. But every other time I got 5,000. The time with Daniel Phillip and winning this orgy, I think I got like $11,000 in total from winning the orgy, then coming back and dusting her off again. I had an extensive history with Cassie. I see your face. You're like, oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even I'm like thinking, no, because if that's $5,000 for every time he goes there, right? And let's say he goes there once a week. I'm doing the math because, hey, it's the money for me. Let's just say he goes there once per week, okay? If he goes there once per week for $5,000, that's $20,000 he's making in 1 month. Okay, 20,000 times 12, that's $240,000 for the entire year. That's 240, right? And then you're saying 240 times 8. I'm just giving a hypothetical figure. In other words, how much is made over his lifetime just by doing this particular thing with Cassie. This is extremely interesting. It's a $1.9 million. So in other words, over the course of his lifetime, over the course of this freak off session, he potentially could make, and I'm just giving the lower end because we don't know. What if they decide they wanted to do it 2 times in 1 week? Because based on what they're saying, she was pretty much like a rabbit. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, how many hours did you go?
Oh, the longest I ever had sex with was 4 days in Miami. And put your glasses on for that.
Okay, now hold on for a second. So when you have sex for 4 days, do you stop to pee? Do you take breaks? What happens?
Yeah. It's kind of like, something, people don't realize something. Diddy is rich. He's as rich as a king. I don't know if you've ever seen the HBO TV series Rome, like where there was with the Julius Caesar series Rome that they had years ago on HBO.
It sounds like Spartacus. It sounds like the show Spartacus. I think I've seen that before, but it's almost like the guys are just available. In other words, so it's not really like he's just going. He's just one of many men. Many men. He's just one of many men who are just kind of lined up, you know, you got the tool in hand and you're just ready. So whenever she says, hey, you got to go, you're just ready to go. I think that's what's going on.
No, but in light, I'm sure my husband has watched it. He watch all them type of shows, but
Okay, a couple of years, HBO had a series, and in this series they had like Cleopatra, Mark Anthony. They were smoking opium. They had a bunch of slaves in there that she was sleeping with that had larger members than Mark Anthony. This is what a freak off really was. I was made to be completely naked, baby oil, and basically kept on standby for every time Cassie needed to come. And I would be called to make her come. I didn't have to eat her. I didn't have to kiss her, even though she kissed me, which is disgusting. Now that I know she was letting people urinate in her mouth.
That is disgusting because we did hear that testimony, and people were just like, people, you know, they clowned her. They talk about, you know, the whole idea of it being a toilet and all that kind of thing. So that was disgusting. So he must feel kind of some kind of, but hey, you are a male sex worker. You're kind of just getting paid for that. But I think that he's probably disgruntled, you know, the mere fact that like she didn't tell him. I think that's the biggest thing, is that like he wasn't told as to the depths of this particular girl. Like, no, he's kind of, it seems as he's finding things out now that he didn't even know at all. So, you know, of course, yeah, sure, you have this nice, pretty girl and you think, oh, you know, she's cool, but you've always heard that though. You know, the prettiest of girls will do some weird things though. I mean, you look at what they talk about with the sheiks. A lot of girls talk about that.
But this is the whole point of oh my God, man. Oh my God.
Keep going. You are an excellent storyteller, and we look forward to this book. I'm gonna give you a week's worth of promotion on this book across all my platforms. That is on me for keeping your word, for coming through here, and for dropping this wine. We are going to heavily promote. Get his ass on the roster.
He has to be promoted. I'm gonna be honest. I'm okay. As much as I think sometimes Tasha K is messy, this is really really good for her to get this guy on here so he could speak his truth or his side of the story. Because hey, there are many sides to this. We don't know exactly what the full side is, but at least we're getting like another perspective versus just the one that they kind of try to sell us in the media. Because of course, hey, they'll do that all the times. But I mean, this is good of Tasha K though. If it is, you know, he's promoting this particular book, and I'm hoping that he has saved some money and him own a place, because hey, if you're being paid $5,000 for every single time they call you over there, that's a lot of money. All I have to say is that's a lot of money. That's like one person's paycheck in a month. Come on, guys.
Go ahead, keep going. Okay.
I promised you I would tell you the truth, because that's what this is about. You know, Diddy might have did a lot of bad stuff. He's horribly abusive to women. We all know this. This is his track record, but he does not deserve an unfair trial. And if there's evidence that says that Cassie's involved, they should not be holding that to make her look like this holier than art thou battered woman.
That is, I think, my problem. And I think that's the problem of a lot of men and some women that I've seen online. So when I watch the comments them online, people are trying to give her this shade of an angel. And I remember one person said, like they said, oh my God, you know, she's just 20, she was only just 23, she didn't know anything at all, and this man has taken advantage and he's made her done all of this. And I said, but that's a little bit unfair though, because when you think about it, what about an 18-year-old that, you know, probably commits a crime? You know what I mean? Like, say, I don't know, he gets involved in some guns or something to that effect, and he commits a crime. No one says that. What happens is that he pretty much gets, you know, he gets charged and he gets put in jail. And there's nothing at all that comes out of that. He gets to serve the time, and people look at it as, hey, let him serve the time. It should be the same. And that's where I think people are having the disconnect, because it's almost as if we're trying to absolve that. While we accept the whole idea of the, what you call it now, the whole idea of the abuse that Diddy has, you know, inflicted on her, because it's obvious, and he's going to talk about that in the series. The mere thing is that there is no level of accountability for Cassie. It's almost like we're looking at it from, oh, she didn't do any of this on her own. There's nothing that you know what I mean. So in other words, we're telling our young girls that it is okay to be manipulated by people out here and not to make decisions for yourself. Because that's what we kind of get from it. And then she's being painted as this person for us to look up to, and that shouldn't be something like this. This should be something for us to be painted to look up toward in our community. I just don't believe so. And that's my problem with it. There are other girls out there who have been performing better and who have been achieving more, who deserves that type of label versus a Cassie. That's my problem.
He was abusive. He was abusive, but he wasn't abusive because she didn't want to have sex. That's the exact opposite. He was abusive because he would catch us having sex behind his back. She would emasculate him about his penis size because he's not that big. She would always get smart with him. And Diddy, from what I saw, Diddy is a very, although he's incredibly successful, he's incredibly, incredibly insecure. His ego is on everything. He would compete with me to try to sleep with Cassie better than me while he was paying me to do it, which was insane. An example, let's say I'm having sex with her. She comes, she's laying in the bed. She's like, oh my God, shaking. I usually would get up and stand off to the side to let him watch her react to coming. Um, he would jump on top of her right after and try to have sex with her, I guess, to make her come again. Now, I'm 3 times larger than him, I would probably say, just off a glance. I never had a sexual relationship with him. I need to say that because you have a
Keep going.
in a room
Come
with this
back.
guy for 8 years. So it's like playing on basketball. When you're walking around with people on the basketball team, you're going to see things you don't want to see. So unfortunately, I saw Sean Combs' member. It's not big. So I believed Cassie when she said, yo, listen, my husband has a small from you because you can satisfy me. He likes to watch. I had absolutely no reason to doubt that she was telling the truth.
So basically what they're saying is that she liked big packages, and the reason why she's been hunting all of these freak offs. So she want the money in Diddy, but she wants the packages from the workers that came by. That's basically what I'm getting from all of that. That okay. Hey, it's probably, don't act like this is crazy though, guys. Like, don't act like that's not been something. Come on now.
Did he have a
Um,
micro?
it just was small, he big pockets, little member. That's just what it was, man. He big pockets, and women don't care. No disrespect. Women don't care when you got a lot of money. Listen, you got a lot of money, we can get around that. He got enough money. She was a young, horny girl. She liked to have sex. And this was the arrangement. He took her around. They would have these freak offs because she was into the swinger lifestyle. She tried to take me to strip clubs. She invited me to swinger parties. She would talk to me about the lifestyle and how her and Sean like to sometimes get together and get with other couples. So I was completely dumbfounded when I heard the fact that she was saying she was made to have these sexual relationships. And I'm like, when? I saw you being forced. I never saw you being afraid. The only time I saw you afraid is when he would catch you nutting behind his back when you told me to do it. So what are you talking about?
See, there we go again. You see, now you get kind of a different view. Like I said, the whole idea of her crying on the stand, I think, was just like something that people looked at, and then when you started to hear the testimony, but I'm saying, but wait, if you're crying, but then you're instigating the freak offs, and then now this worker's kind of confirming a lot of the things that were in the testimony, based on the other testimonies that were there, then I mean, there's a train of thought that seems very consistent. You understand? Because he didn't testify. This guy didn't actually testify, as one of the people that were there. So this is now, it now makes the case a little bit different. Yet again, and that's why I said that it's just, it's the okay. Yet again, I think it's coming down to, the main thing is coming down to is just that, hey, her acting as though she was this young, naive girl who was coerced by this predatory man. That is the problem. Did the man, or was the man abusive? Apparently, yes, based on this guy's account and other accounts that were there. But to make it seem as though, she was like being preyed upon is just seems like that's not so. It's obvious that's not so. Yeah.
Nothing behind his back. So
Hmm.
which means like,
Good example. I remember a situation. He got a phone call. So the rules of these freak offs or swinger parties was
Hmm.
if he's watching as a voyeur, we can't do anything sexually when he's not there, and that's a basic trust issue between men and women who are involved in a swinger relationship. If you allow someone in your bedroom, you're expecting that person to follow the rules.
Mm.
Usually, if you're dealing with a couple where the man is consenting to you sleeping with his wife, the man is in control of that situation. So if he doesn't want you to do it with
oh,
your wife, you can't. That's just the swinger lifestyle. And
So it's almost like the woman is like a property inside of the bedroom, and the man is like a property. So in other words, that's how the couple treats it. So they're saying, hey, that's kind of my property. If you're gonna use it, I want to see exactly how you're using it, making sure you're not doing anything that I wouldn't want you to do. And I don't believe that this is just on the male side. I think this probably may turn on the female side as well. I've never swung, guys. I don't know. I'm just giving an opinion here of how I'm thinking this is actually going to go based on what he's explaining and based on how, some people's accounts have been with the whole idea when they swing. It's obvious that, I mean, that's what they like to see happen. I mean,
Who knows about the swinger lifestyle knows I'm telling the truth. If you've gone out and got someone in your bedroom, let's say for your husband, even if the woman likes the guy, she still has to defer to her husband because when that man leaves, you still got to live with your husband. It's common sense. So this is what Cassie would do. She would defer to Diddy just to make sure he was okay with the fact that she was giving me head, that she might want to keep having sex. And Cassie was insatiable. Diddy he never made her have sex with. He never insinuated, yo, why don't you take some D? He never said that. She would go, she would tell him I'm ready. He would say, okay, you could start. He would watch, but he would be more of a protector. He would make sure nothing happened to her. He was incredibly protective of her, incredibly protective of her.
So what I'm getting from both of them is that they both love each other. Again, they both love each other in the entire thing of things, right? But it's just a kind of toxic, one of those toxic kind of loves, and it's obvious, he didn't want her getting hurt at all, I mean, and if there's anything, it's just between the both of them. It's obvious that she troubled him as far as the package is concerned, and he, would get upset in turn and probably put hands on her. You're kind of getting exactly what's going on here. It's nothing different from a regular domestic dispute. Is nothing different from that. Now, the sex traffic and those things, that's something different to speak to, and that can kind of come up in another video and for another topic. But I just kind of wanted to look exactly to see exactly was there anything else to it? I mean, was she really actually being coerced, as she says? Even though we've seen like little parts to it, but to listen to it from a first an account from one of the workers, because that's what I'm getting now, that he was one of the workers that were actually, being invited into the bedroom, and he's been there for 8 years, which is a long time. That's a long time to be in somebody's bedroom. As I say, it's like a full-time job.
They didn't
Yeah.
put you or Rico on the stand.
No, because they knew we were going to say that she was complicit. And it's nothing wrong with her being complicit. He's still guilty of sex trafficking. Like, look at all the stuff they're exposing. In order to be guilty of sex trafficking and this RICO that they're charging him with, he basically just has to know about it, have benefited in some way, and financed it, which he clearly all did by booking rooms in the name of Frank Black. Mind you, I've checked into Frank Black rooms probably 15 times. Every room I checked into from Miami, LA, New York, I checked in under Frank Black, so I could verify that. The abuse, I physically saw him assault her at least 5 times. I can verify that. I got her pregnant. She told me I got her pregnant to my face. Let's see. It was a lot. I have no reason why they did not call me other than the fact I released that book, and they were afraid that if the fence got to me and they started asking me about Cassie, I was gonna say, yo, listen, no, that didn't happen. He didn't do that.
So that's basically it, guys. It's like I've said, this is just a tricky site. And it's a shame. It's a shame that this had to come out like this for people to now start to have like a whole different viewpoint onto the entire case. It's a shame because I feel like the believe all women tag has expired. I feel like it has expired. Like ever since that the Jonathan Majors, and you literally saw the man running, and you saw what he was trying to do, getting away from her. I feel like the tag has expired. This whole idea of believing all women just because they're women, like, and I'm not saying you don't have women who get taken advantage of. That's not what I'm saying. But to make it seem as though all women are being taken advantage of and all women are to be believed is just out of this world. Now, sure, again, the domestic dispute. And by the way, I hope that just the same way that women are advocating for, I mean, for Cassie to get justice on the domestic dispute, that they will be advocating as well to for a man who, gets hands put on him by a woman, because you do have that, and it happens much more frequently than people actually think. So I hope that people really and truly still keep that same energy, because people sometimes they forget, especially women forget sometimes. They're okay when it's one way around, they're fine with fighting the battle, but when it's the next way around, it's a whole joke. You know what I mean? And experiments have been kind of done to show you exactly what this looks like, just to show you how people would actually react to it versus actually doing something about it. So I'm hoping that gets explored, but this is crazy. It is definitely crazy, and it definitely opens it up. Like I said before, this whole case to me was more about. It's really more about just a freak off. I mean, outside of the other charges, sure, they can do whatever else it is, but the biggest piece of the case is just the whole idea of the freak off and the baby oil. That's really it. And as I tried to discuss with like someone I was speaking with, and I said, you know what, really and truly, people have been having freak offs since the dawn of time. People have been freaks since the dawn of time. They've done many different things. So this is like no different. Only that you're just getting one that's going on trial and they're revealing the contents and you know what I mean and all of that, you know, about it. So it's kind of nothing different. So they make it seem as it's this grand thing and oh my God, you know, he's predatory for no, it's not. And it isn't for if that's what she likes, it isn't either. But I think that the biggest problem I have is just the mere fact that they made it seem, and a lot of when people discussed it, it was discussed as though, oh my God, this girl is such a victim, and they tried to celebrate the guy that was with her and say, oh, you know, he's such a hero for sticking in there, and he's a real man. And I'm like, wait, what? Hold on, a hero for what? So I think that those were the parts of this that I think I have an actual issue with. But hey, y'all watch your content. Let me know what y'all think. Where do you lie now on it? Do you have any more insight? Give me some notes here, guys. Talk to me. So comment, like, share, comment, subscribe. Hey, I'm gonna talk to y'all soon. Yeah, keep watching.